Coming up on eBEFOREi Video Reviews, we take a look at Transformers Adventure RID Grimlock, which is actually a remold, of all things, of the Fall of Cybertron Voyager class Grimlock. Is this good? Is it any good? Is it, Carter? We take a look at it. We'll give you a real close look on the high-def table behind me, and we'll see if this is worth your time and money, or should you be satisfied with the Warrior class? I'll also compare him to the Fall of Cybertron figure itself so that you can make up your own mind right here on eBEFOREi Video Reviews. So one of the original problems that people had with the Warrior class original RID figure for Grimlock was the fact that he was just so small and scaled up next to the other figures. I mean, you know, Grimlock shouldn't be the same size as, you know, the car. He should be bigger than that. But so he was just a real tiny little guy. Good figure, but just too small to be an effective Grimlock. I really do like him, though. His transformation was innovative. It was cool, especially for the RID line. There's a lot to like about this figure, except the size was just too small. I would have liked to have seen maybe a Voyager scaled version exactly of this, but oddly enough, what we got from overseas is a heavily modified version of the Fall of Cybertron Voyager class Grimlock. And if you've forgotten about that figure already, it's this guy right here. And I mean, night and day. The mold has been improved in every single conceivable way. This guy is far superior to this. And I like this. It's fine. Remember the tail syndrome, how terrible that was when people first saw how big and ugly that tail was? It almost is non-existent. It's the same size, but there's so much retooling that it really works for this figure, and it doesn't work so much here, at least in dinosaur mode. Let's compare them both side by side and get a close look at what you're getting with the two. So every bit of the head is different. There's nothing about these two heads that are the same. Of course, one represents the cartoon version of Robots in Disguise Transformers, and the other one represented the video game, the Fall of Cybertron game. Again, completely new head in every way possible, from the top to the jaw to the way the jaw operates. On the Fall of Cybertron Grimlock, you had a trigger in the back that opened the mouth and also allowed him to light up. You had a light in there. I will say there are absolutely no electronics in this figure. So if you think you're going to get some glowing red coming out of Grimlock's mouth here, you're not going to get it because there's no lights, there's no battery. It's been completely gutted of any electronics whatsoever. There's also no lever in the back, so his mouth is on a hinge, and it works fine, nice and stiff. It's not going to open up on you. It's not loose or anything like that. But do not expect to see a light-up gimmick. Now, when you compare the Voyager class head with the Warrior class, it seems to all around have better detail, although what you're missing is the Warrior class had this real nice silver paint on the upper part of the jaw and the teeth, and it's just the boring gray plastic here. So it doesn't look bad, it's just not as nice as that. You're also on the Warrior class missing some paint that the Voyager has, so you don't have the yellow filled in here on the hinge that you got on this guy. And all the little yellow bits, like right here on the neck, you don't have any detailing there. The eyes are both blue, although this one pops a bit more, but that is still a really cool shade of blue. It's just a little bit difficult to see, I think, in my camera. Top of heads look similar there. We're going to go back and forth with our comparisons since we're really comparing them to two different figures. Again, the back of the figure is completely different. The chest of the figure, or what becomes the chest, completely remolded. The way the legs peg in completely changed. On the original figure, they peg up underneath. Oh, this is the shiny version, I should mention. This is the Target exclusive, more G1 colors, but it's the same deal as the Fall of Cybertron. But you see that these peg inside, and here they peg on the outside. So that's completely different. Also on the tail that kind of help it, I think, in my opinion, is you've got these little hooks right here that you don't have on the original, and it works. Look at also in the back, you've got these giant steel plates that come up, or plastic, but you know what I mean. You didn't have that here. The arms are identical, and the legs, even though they look like they've been heavily retooled themselves, they really haven't been. What you do have is the kind of flat and angled down bit right here, whereas on this one it's just completely round all the way around. You don't have any paint in this one, and you do here, which gives it a completely different feel and look, albeit it's really the same thing. The rest of the figure looks to be completely the same as far as the in-plastic detail. It's just, you know, different colors of paint and such. One of the drawbacks on the original figure was the hollowness inside. You still have the same hollowness with the new figure. Doesn't really bother me as much. In fact, you've got a little bit more hollow because what you're lacking on this is the battery component. There's a battery in here with the electronics. Not there. It's just empty and hollow. Again, I don't mind it. You know, I'm not posing him, you know, up like this. And it doesn't feel hollow. He's got a decent weight. In fact, he feels a little heavier than the Fall of Cybertron. Plastic quality feels good in hand all the way around. Finishing out the comparison, look at the tails between the two, or the what become the legs. Completely different plastic. In-plastic molding is completely different in a good way. On the sides as well, again, it's different. You can tell they use the same molding, but then added new bits to it, and just gives it a complete different feel. Now, one of the negatives here, you may see it as a negative, is you have almost no articulation in dinosaur mode. You can bend him at the knees, but you really want to keep him at this angle so the tail drags. You don't want the tail up. I mean, you could do that, but the instructions actually tell you to drag the tail, whereas the Fall of Cybertron, they actually tell you to, you know, make a more traditional dinosaur. Do have the Robots in Disguise scannable Autobot symbol here that you can scan with the app. The arms are still the same ball joint come off easiness of the other one, so just be careful. I mean, they're not going to fall off on you just by, you know, moving them around and light playing. But if you get rough with this guy, these things are going to fly off and you could lose them, so be careful there. I distracted myself. The rest of the articulation, you do have the jaws I mentioned. The legs are pegged in underneath, so you're not going to get any hip movement, and there's no movement in the tail, so you're basically looking at kind of a statue with the ball joint movable little dino hands and the jaw. Now, looking at these two side by side, you can see that there's just so much more size here. Not crazy, but it fits in scale so much better to see this size dinosaur with the car versus that size with the car. This one can ride on top. This one would crush the car. So overall, this scales very well, and I quite like the way that looks. Let's get some of the RID figures in bot mode, and then you'll kind of see how he looks that way as well. So as you can see here, the size clearly works better. Here's Bumblebee transformed, and having a bigger Grimlock just really works more than, you know, more than this one did, who almost looks like his little pet. Hello. Now, it might have been even better if somehow we had gotten a bit more height out of this, but then you expose, I mean, this mold just isn't meant for height. So I think this is really as tall as you're going to get it, but because he's so much longer, this works, even with him not being quite so tall in his dino mode. All right, that all being said, let's go ahead and get Grimlock transformed. Very similar transformation as the Fall of Cybertron Grimlock, with maybe one difference. First, what you want to do is you want to separate this whole piece from the body here. So there's the body, and you're going to pull this whole thing. Now, you can't really push this all the way down until you've opened up the arms. So you want to go ahead and get the arms out of the way and just kind of pull them up so that you have clearance here. You want to take the dinosaur head, and it's on two little nubs right there of plastic, and you just need to, I'd like to just open this up just a little bit, and then you can push the head down. So ultimately what's going to happen is this is going to tuck in just like the original Fall of Cybertron Grimlock. It's going to tuck in there real nicely like that. The one difference is that on the top, to fill in all that gap, since you don't have the battery compartment, there's a piece of plastic, and you can lift on this green scaly bit, and it lifts up and acts as a cover and fills in that gap. So you can see no gap, head's tucked in, kind of push the dino hands up against the back like that, and you've basically formed you know, the main part of Grimlock. To finish with the legs, this is very, very similar. You want to separate the tail. This is much easier on this figure than the Fall of Cybertron to do that separation. It was so hard to do that one. And you want to move this piece forward just like the original figure. There's a tab inside of the leg, and it's actually right in here, and it tabs into that hole. And so you're going to bring it in, and it fits in there real nice. You feel almost a little, not really a snap, but it pushes in to where you know it's in place. The tail tucks in underneath just like that. You want to come around to the arms, and this is much looser than on the original Fall of Cybertron. You remember that really tough ratchet joints that they had? Not quite so tough here. But you want to just push it in and have it curved in just like that. And I'll show you what the back of that looks like here in just a second. Do the same thing on the other side. Just push and then get it back in. And on the back of the arm, you're really looking for it to have the hollow piece facing outward toward you or toward the back. And then they push all the way in. And this is the part, that tough ratchet. You can't really see it from that angle, but that was really tough on the Fall of Cybertron figure. This one, almost no effort, takes care of that. Complete the hands the same way as you did on the original figure. Just push on that claw and then close the gap. Rinse and repeat on the other side. Open it up, close the gap, and basically, guess what? You're done. So stand him up, pose him up. So here we have Grimlock fully transformed, and this really does look nice. Compare the size to the Warrior class, and you see what you're dealing with here. Now, I think the problem with the Warrior class is he was just too small for Grimlock. I mean, you put him next to Bumblebee, and it just didn't really work. You know, but you put him next to this size Grimlock, and maybe he's still just a little bit too tall, but I much prefer to see Grimlock at this scale than back down to the Warrior class scale, because that just doesn't make any sense. He's a dinosaur, Dinobot, he's huge. So that's the way I think we prefer to have him. Now, while I'm at this size comparison angle, let's get Bumblebee off to the side and put the Fall of Cybertron Grimmy right next to him. And you can see they look like completely different figures. Yes, there are similarities. But I mean, all the way around. What a unique way to use the mold. I mean, when I first found out that they were doing this, I didn't think it could be pulled off quite the way that this was. But as is, we have two completely different looking characters, albeit one from the cartoon line and one not. And I mean, again, I think this looks fantastic. The head sculpt is very nice. Despite the way these lights make it look, there's no light piping. It's just paint. You do get a head rotation left and right. There is no up, down, all around. You can't do anything like that. But very cool. I love the fact that the inside of his arms now are painted, which is so nice because it looks like that on the cartoon. And they didn't do that on the Warrior class, so I'm very happy that that's there. The scannable Autobot symbol, I kind of wish they didn't have that, but, that's their gimmick. The chest, I think, looks great, all new in plastic molding to match the figure itself. 2 holes here, I think that's for screw or something, I'm not positive on that. All the rest of the articulation is exactly like the Fall of Cybertron version. Do like the paint that we have inside of the hips, that's kind of cool. The knees work really well with them kind of flaring up over the figure, which they did on the original Warrior class as well. Little yellow tips, there's lots of just nice paint all the way around. But I really like what they've done here with this figure, very much. Now, one thing I should also mention is that he does come with the same exact weapons as the Fall of Cybertron Grimlock. The difference is they've got a little bit different color to them. The RID Adventure Grimlock comes with this yellow sword, and the original, at least the Target exclusive that I have here, came with this red. I'm pretty sure the original did. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it was more orange. But either way, you can see that they're exactly similar, just different color plastic. Same with the shields. Although I have to say, the yellow shield with the gray paint almost makes it look like two pieces. It's just one piece, but it makes it look like there's two and really brings it out a lot more. So am I ever going to put these weapons with the figure? Probably not, but it's cool that they came with it. Boy, they do look great together, don't they? So this basically concludes the review. I mean, is this too tall? I don't think so. I think this fits in just about right. Dinosaur mode, I wish maybe was a little bit taller, but that's really, an issue with the mold itself. It is what it is. The length is fine. The width of the dinosaur is perfect. Definitely fits better than the warrior class. And when it comes down to it with your collection, do you think this looks better? Or would you rather replace this guy with that guy? Just doesn't fit for me. So even though this one might be a little bit bigger than he should be, I really think he scales in quite nice. And even if not perfect, I think it goes much, much better with my personal collection, and I'm happy that he's here. Fix-It was about to get really, really mad at me. There you go. So again, this concludes my review of the Transformers Adventure RID Voyager class Grimlock. He's an import. I don't know if he's ever going to be officially released in the United States, for those of you that are watching here in America, but you can always import him. He's not bad. He's at a very reasonable price. So go to your favorite online retailer where you buy your figures from, see if this guy's available, and if so, and you find it's worth it for you, bring him on into your collection. Again, I really think he looks great. Okay, Jazz was going to get ticked off at me. It's like a friggin' family portrait around here. I should also mention that the Japanese re-release of Animated Slug here fits in perfect with this group. So we're going to add him to the family snapshot as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is eBEFOREi Video Reviews. If you want to support me and all of my mayhem, all you have to do is subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. Costs you nothing, but the subtotals really do count and mean something, and so it's very much appreciated. Also, tell your friends about me. If you want to follow me on Facebook, I'm at facebook.com/eBEFOREi, Twitter at eBEFOREiNet, and all kinds of other social groups, and check the description for lots of other fun places you can go, including my Facebook group, which is a really cool place to hang out and talk about toys. Official name of this figure is Transformers Adventure TAV30 Battle Grimlock. Find him and he can be yours. Thanks again. We'll see you back here again real soon.